Good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Jenkinson. I'm the Editor-in-Chief and Managing Director of C21 Media. Thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure today to invite Joanna Shields to the stage. Joanna made a name for herself at Google. She managed the sale of Bebo to AOL, and in April she became VP of EMEA at Facebook. As one of the pioneers of social media and digital, she's uniquely positioned to understand the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Joanna Shields.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really great to be back here at MIP. For some reason, you've invited me as a technology person many times over the last, I think it's almost been 15 years, to come and speak to this crowd and this industry about the future of the business in terms of digital and the internet. So it's great to be back today. Over the past 15 years, the internet's truly transformed our lives. And I've been one of the lucky ones to witness every stage of its evolution. As David said, I used to run Real Networks International, the people that gave the streaming media, audio and video to the internet. And then from there, I went and joined Google, and I was one of the managing directors for Europe. And I joined them at a time when, information really dominated the landscape, and the internet was all about organizing that information. But whilst that organizing information was really what we would attribute the last decade to, I think this decade is about something much more interesting to this audience, and that is it's the social web. Right now, the internet is much more focused on people, and people have become the center. And certainly at Facebook, that's really what we're all about, is the people are at the center of the internet. So I believe I'll just make a statement here that this decade is going to be about this much more important cultural phenomenon, the social web. And the social web is all about the potential for this industry, the media industry, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. So for most of my professional career, I've been asking people to imagine a future world and to prepare for it. But today, there's no need to imagine that world any longer, because the future is here. And all the things that we envisioned, that we've talked about over the past 15 years, are starting to happen. Let me illustrate what I'm talking about. So let me take you to this place. Imagine a place, if you will, where the voice of your fan can be amplified to a chorus, where an effective focus group can be the size of a country, and where the star of your show could be discovered online, and where your friends watch TV with you even when you're alone. And then finally, where the strength of a personal recommendation can be spread across 500 million people. That, folks, is a place that we call the social graph, and it's the social graph that is the power and the engine behind Facebook. The social graph represents the sum of all connections that people have with their friends, their family, and the world around them. It also has the potential to become the most powerful media marketing tool ever created. Facebook now has over 500 million users. Whilst we were founded in 2006, it took 4 years to reach the first milestone of 100 million users. Just earlier this year, it took 4 months to add another 100 million users. So now we've reached 500 million active users. And what's most astounding about that number is the sheer magnitude of it, of course, but the fact that 60% of those users come back to the site every single day. Every month they spend an average of 6 hours on Facebook. Now, what you might not realize is 70% of those users are outside the United States. And if you would put that together, all of the people in Facebook together, to give you some perspective, the size and magnitude of the site, if Facebook were a country, we'd be third in the world behind China and India. What that means in terms of media consumption is that Facebook users spend 700 billion minutes per month on the site, sharing 30 billion pieces of content. And all that sharing is done by real people. It's not about avatars anymore or made-up names. It's real people making Facebook an incredibly authentic and personal place, where people share their hopes, their desires, their dreams, and their fantasies, from the mundane to the magnificent. When a Facebook user is moved by something that he or she watches, or a brander that he or she has interacted with. All it takes for her to share her enthusiasm with hundreds of people is one click. And instantly, everyone she's connected to becomes aware of her feelings, and because they care about her, they share that with their friends as well. And when this person becomes a fan of your show, and you give them valuable things to share with their friends, they become part of your brand's social equity. And we'll come back to that in a bit. But that's why I believe that the most important word in the internet today is not search anymore, but it's share. When we search and we find something, that's usually the end of the story. But when we share something, we're at the beginning of a story and the beginning of a conversation. And whether you start the conversation or join one, your ability to be relevant to your audience is significantly higher than ever before. And this indicates that we're at a critical moment in time. When we look back 10 years from now, we'll start to see an era where this whole mystique about digital stopped being about technology and about websites and started simply being an extension of human behavior. The technology, the algorithms, the hardware, the software, the things that people like me like to talk about are becoming less and less noticeable, and more people are being involved in Facebook, and they create their own personal, unique experience. 500 million of them. And you're probably all familiar with the expression, the medium is the message, by sociologist, Canadian sociologist Marshall McLuhan. Well, I think if he were alive today and he had a look at Facebook, he would say, in this case, that the people are the message. And I believe that people are the message because the internet has become the most powerful medium ever created. And it's become that way not because technology is advanced or because we figured out ways to produce content and distribute it better. It's become that way because of all of us, everyone in this room, because it's enabled each and every one of us to tell our own story and to share our own experiences with everyone and everything we care about. Next thing that's quite an interesting phenomenon is how many people are watching television with their laptop. I'm hoping Forrester does this study again, but as of last December, they were saying 47% of European viewers between the ages of 12 and 17 watch TV while using their laptop. Well, I can attest that every weekend in the UK, when I go to see friends, all their kids are glued to the X Factor, but they're not even talking to each other. They're basically just sharing, chatting, sitting next to each other and having a conversation on Facebook. It's astounding, really. Almost half of these teenagers watch TV while using their laptop. But there's something else happening. The largest TV events, we've been tracking recently how many people have been involved using Facebook while watching the event. And we've come up with a figure through some research where 30% of all TV viewers have admitted to being logged onto Facebook at the same time as they're watching a show. Now, we've taken this data across the Super Bowl, the Oscars, and the World Cup. Well, you're probably wondering why. And it's because there's one thing that people like doing more than watching their favorite television show, and that's talking with their friends about their favorite television show. All these people who used to be a passive audience now take full part in creating, curating, and sharing media. Facebook is now the top source of traffic for major news and entertainment portals, and millions of people trust their Facebook connections to provide them with the information about what's happening right now in their world. Until very recently, these are roles that we relied on the media to fulfill. And you're probably thinking running a media business used to be fairly straightforward. You know, the industry was nicely segmented into groups who had control over what content got created, how it got distributed, when it was viewed, and who made money from it. Well, we now know that that world has been blown to bits, and it's never going to be put back the same way. So you're probably thinking, this point is worth repeating. No matter where we're headed, we're never going to go back to Kansas. But what does that actually mean? Do these changes have an impact on your business directly? What I can recommend to you as a media executive, if trying to find this yellow brick road, if you will, is after all, it's been a decade or more of people who've been talking about how important digital is, yet despite all the commotion, very few examples of digital media done right exist. And more companies like yourselves are starting to realize that social is an inseparable aspect of the television experience. The audience sharing stories and experiences is fulfilling one of the most fundamental human needs. That's that these stories are being shared whether they come from a TV show or a newspaper or a magazine or a movie. These stories are the beginning of the conversation and not the last word. Facebook gives people an unprecedented power to share their stories, and they become abilities as narrators to tell new stories. And when I talk about narrators, I'm not simply talking about media professionals, like the people in this audience. I'm talking about game developers such as Zynga. 3 years ago, Zynga didn't exist, and today they have over 200 million unique users. I'm also talking about brands such as Burberry. Burberry's producing its own original content. In fact, Burberry is no longer just a fashion company. Today, they're a thriving media enterprise. Burberry is the #1 fashion brand on Facebook because, not just because it makes great clothes, but because it understands the importance of sparking interest in the community and using social media to engage and delight their consumers. Whether it's relating to consumers by promoting indie bands on a Facebook page or celebrating the ideas of the most stylish customers on this site, The Art of the Trench, Burberry is building its brand not simply by broadcasting content and advertising to them, but by creating new media experiences for them. Which begs the question, what is your role as media professionals in the social decade? What can you do to excite and delight the people formerly known as the audience? And how can we collaborate with each other to innovate at speeds in which digital moves? Let's take a look now at some of the most popular shows on Facebook. So not surprisingly, I think I count my son in the first, between Family Guy and South Park, I think he and his friends are the best indicator of that. But those are some of the top brands on Facebook. You also notice there's one European brand on there, which is Top Gear. Now, Top Gear, for example, is the largest entertainment brand on the site that's European. And of those, 60% of their users are outside the UK, which is the show's home market. So you're probably wondering, remember how difficult it used to be to build a global TV brand? Well, you can start to see the potential of using Facebook to further those ends. And you can imagine the potential of tapping into the collective energy of 500 million fans, 60% of which visit Facebook every day. You can communicate with these people directly. You can do this every day because they love your brand and they want to hear from you. You don't even need me or anybody from Facebook, for that matter, to have a conversation with them. Having conversations is one thing, but gaining insights onto who your viewers are and how they're interacting with your brand is something that Facebook can also deliver. We've added a powerful insights dashboard that gives you all the detailed information from demographic information. You can target shows, promotions, events, anything you like through your Facebook page experience. And you can figure out where your traffic's coming from and which posts are generating the most viral responses and much, much more for that matter. We've also seen a very big success of films on Facebook. The same opportunities for marketing movies and sustaining interest in a film, from theatrical to games to DVD release, with millions of people declaring their love and support. When Toy Story 3 wanted to ramp up interest in the movie, they spent the weekend just before engaging users on Facebook. In the UK alone, and this was a small campaign that ran over the course of 2 days, 200,000 people liked the movie and over 100,000 people answered polls that Disney put on the page, and that figure is just for one weekend. True, not every movie or television show has millions of fans, but even during a recent screening of David Attenborough's Planet Earth, thousands of people were talking about the show in real time on Facebook, and that's a natural history program, folks. So the truth is that we're hardwired to talk, to share, and to express our thoughts, and Facebook lets us do that in real time. And it lets us do that with everyone in our social graph and everyone we want around the world. And that, as David Attenborough would say, is a tectonic shift. I don't know how many of you guys are following the X Factor. Of course, it's probably big news here that it's going to America. But the season finale last year in the UK was one of the most watched shows in the history. But what you may not know is that millions of people were watching the show on Facebook as well. And they were glued to their TV screens, but they were on their computers. And they did so because their friends were also online, and they shared their experiences in real time. Indeed, more than 500,000 status updates were posted through the Xbox Face Factor feed that day, with an average of 50,000 status updates per minute during the broadcast. So here's the kind of response a typical X Factor poll generates, as appeared on one of my team members' phone. And this is pretty amazing stuff. So they were out and about on a Saturday evening, and somebody decided to share with them some information that was happening on the show at that moment in time. So even the people who aren't watching your television program can be engaged through Facebook. So what happens in between episodes or in between seasons? In most cases, the answer is nothing, because we see media as more of a product and not as a process. We tend to see, shows as something that are consumed and then people move on. But the truth is that great content makes people feel something, and they will continue to be engaged, just like these friends engaged this guy with their X Factor updates. And these feelings need to be expressed. So you need to ensure that you're constantly tapping into that emotional feeling that resonates with people because they love your show brand. I think Fremantle's done a fantastic job. They've treated their show much more than a once-a-week spectacle, but instead they've turned it into an ongoing, engaging, popular culture experience. For example, on any given day, the X Factor page has news updates, polls, and even their sponsor, TalkTalk, which has a karaoke application that engages people and allows them to try out for the show and to be part of the commercial breaks. So that's generating a lot of interest. The X Factor polls, each one they launch generates thousands of responses. And on any given day, we're seeing 250,000 status updates about X Factor alone on Facebook in the UK, and the live shows haven't even started yet. So you might be wondering, who are all those people, and where do they find time to interact with the TV show on Facebook? What you might not realize is that recently a Pew Research study in the US found that 49% of baby boomers, those are from the ages of 50 to 65, are members of social networks, and a majority of those are Facebook members. But what was really astounding to me is that 24% of the internet users over the age of 65 are using Facebook. So to say that a revolution doesn't happen when society adopts new tools, it happens when society adopts new behaviors. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's undeniable. We've reached the point. The future is here, and the potential for the media industry is nothing short of phenomenal. Whilst this may all seem quite daunting, I'd like to leave you with a quote from a very wise man that you'll all recognize and respect. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joanna. I think the significant thing about all of that is the size of the audience that comes to Facebook every day. 500 million users, and I think we did an interview with someone 6 months ago, and it's 500 million, and I think 6 months ago it was 400 million.
Yep.
So, it's clearly sort of out of control. What's your best advice for the entertainment business in trying to engage with the platform? Because it seems there's so many different ways to do it. You cited X Factor there.
Yep.
What are they doing right, and what do others do wrong, and what's Facebook's role in the entertainment business, for starters?
Well, I think what people do right is they look at it as a process. It used to be you geared up, you produced a show, the show went out, you fingers crossed, you do some advertising, you try to get the audience to show up and to watch the show. But you have this incredible marketing tool. In fact, I think Facebook is transforming brand marketing, in this case, your show brand marketing. The ability to reach out and to tap into what people love, to create a buzz and energy and excitement around something, like the X Factor is a fantastic example because it's rich with material, and every week something's happening behind the scenes, and they're constantly feeding that to the audience and engaging them and bringing them in. And I think this season's going to be a very interesting experiment for them.
And are they engaging commercially on the platform as well?
Yep.
And if
Yes.
so, how are they doing that?
They've been running some very targeted ads, using video ads and polling, and some of our what we've been doing is helping them target, people who love Simon Cowell, people who love the X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, certain keywords that we can actually deliver them the most likely audience that will watch the show. So that's what we've been trying to help them do.
Now, I think one of the points that you made recently at a conference in Germany was that you were surprised that television channels had a relationship with their audience where they were given an ad and then nothing much happened after that ad. The engagement factor was sort of not as strong. What's the difference between engaging with the sorts of advertising that you're recommending through Facebook, and how is that going to be a threat as much as an opportunity for the television business?
Well, I think advertising has traditionally been a campaign-based activity. So it's, you set aside a budget, you figure out the best creative campaign to reach your audience, and then you deliver it, and then often it trails off. And so what Facebook can be is this reinforcing message, way to deliver reinforced messages about your brand, about what you'd like people to engage on, whether it's you know, a new sort of feature show that's coming out or something that you know is going to mean something to them. Like when the new fall season came out in the US, I'm obviously American, but I've been living in the UK for 11 years. But I couldn't wait to hear what shows were happening. So I was constantly looking at what was happening on the site, like what shows people were advertising and how they were positioning them, and then looking on iTunes so I could buy them as soon as they were available.
If you were running a network, what would you do? A television network? What would you do strategically in digital, and particularly in social media, to make sure that you took best advantage of it?
Well, I think that the most important thing to do is take stock of your brands. Look at the equity that your shows have with the audience, in the various markets, and then figure out how to engage people and to bring that up a level. I mean, assuming that if you look at those figures we've got 26 million users in the UK, I think it's 18 million in France, 16 million in Italy. So all the big markets have, you know, a critical mass of your audience are going to be on Facebook, or going to be engaged, or going to be on the site, you know, every other day. As I said, you know, 60% are on every day. So, you know, take stock of those brands and figure out a marketing program around them and how you continue to bring them into the creative process, so that it's not just you deliver a show on a Friday night, but you deliver the material and the updates and the things that the audience are looking for.
And as that audience changes online and gets used to, and you say that nearly 50% of the younger demographic is sort of multi-screening.
Yeah.
How do you think that affects the nature of content? And can content exist purely as a linear experience in the future, or does it have to have that interactive component, do you think?
Well, I think, you know, what I was talking about is that the kids do that. I think children are going to be interesting to watch because they're so used to multitasking anyway. And I think we're going to have to figure out how to entertain in a world where people have this short attention span, without a doubt. But I still think there is no substitute for great drama. There's nothing like going to the movies. There's nothing like watching a great film. You know, if it's good and it's entertaining and it's captivating, you'll still have the audience.
Let's talk a little bit about Facebook Places,
Okay.
because I think that's a very interesting place to start as a sort of a precursor to what could come next on Facebook. You know better than I, but maybe you can start by explaining a little bit about what Facebook Places is, and then how that might be developed into the content business.
Well, first of all, for those of you who don't know, Facebook Places is, we've launched in a number of European markets and the United States and Japan. And what it does is enables you to check in and tell your friends where you are. Now, oftentimes it's like my colleague and I were checking in outside because we thought it was quite fun to say we were in Cannes. So you know, sometimes it's just a show-off type of thing. Other times it's because you want to meet or rally or create, you know, a place where friends get together. So it's quite an interesting functionality, but mainly what's really great about it is the idea that if you walked into, you know, a store, you know, somebody could actually send you a coupon that's valid for that store. So chances are, if you're interested in Starbucks and you check in from Starbucks, you might want to get that offer that they have for you that allows you to get the sandwich with the drink, that type of thing. So I think that's really interesting. But also like the example I showed you about the X Factor update, there's a live update from the show, and you know, one of my colleagues was out and about, but he wouldn't have seen that otherwise. So suddenly he's drawn into the show via the fact that he's checked in and someone sent him a message.
It's interesting that, I mean, I'm sure Foursquare's very happy about that, and they're sort of helping them out in lots of ways. How you could take that locational format and apply it to what I'm watching, yes. I imagine is a way to go. What's the thinking in that respect, and how will that become a sort of a peer recommendation system for watching television, do you think?
Yeah, I think just like you can check into a location, you could theoretically, it doesn't exist yet, but you could check into a television show and you could tell everybody what's happening. You know, you could say, I'm watching this, you've got to see it. So I think it can become a very powerful marketing tool at some stage. We're not quite there yet in terms of checking in, but it's all about data, and it's all about making that data available. But you can see how we could possibly get there one day.
I thought it was interesting in the presentation that you retranslated Marshall McLuhan's quote to the medium is the message, to the people are the message. Mm-hmm. The people clearly are the message, but the tools that you're giving them are still a part of that message.
Yes.
What tools do you have coming down the line that you think people will use more effectively to build their entertainment or their social network experience?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the most powerful things about Facebook is the idea that we allow companies or websites to bring Facebook to their site. So for instance, if you have a site for Merlin, the show, you can actually have people sign in with their Facebook identity. It's literally one line of code, but suddenly we bring that Facebook audience to your show and to your site, which is really unprecedented. The fact that your brand, if someone comes to your site, could actually bring their friends with them. And then anything they do on your site, if they watch a video, if they participate in a poll or a contest of some sort, that is broadcast back to their Facebook page. So then that gets shared with all their friends.
What do you think about Facebook as a network? If in a connected TV environment, clearly the internet's going to be as accessible to deliver video as a television channel. And if the X Factor's a Facebook page, it could quite easily be a channel, and any program could be a channel on Facebook. Is that in your plans?
I think it's not in our plans, but it probably should be in the plans of everyone here. The idea that you could use Facebook to deliver content. You could, once you create that page for your show brand, you have the ability to do whatever you want there. I mean, it's your real estate, it's your material. So basically, you can communicate to the audience any way you like.
I'm going to see if there's any questions in the audience. Could we put the lights up just a little bit? And if anyone's got a question, could you raise your hands?
Oh.
Where's there a microphone? Okay, who's got a really good question? Gentleman at the front, you had your hand up first. Yeah, the guy there.
Hi, it's John Bessai from Canada. First of all, David, I love the way you interview. I think you're fantastic.
Can't really hear you. Can you speak?
Oh, sorry. I'm John Bessai from Canada. First of all, I wanted to congratulate David. I think you do a great job of interviewing. Like, you really do. But my question is for the panelists. Can you describe some of the ads that are the most effective on Facebook? I like the ones, for example, where people can vote on whether they like them or not.
Yeah.
Could you just describe, or maybe even show, probably not, but just describe some of the ads that really work on Facebook?
I think one of the most successful ads that would be relevant, we have these engagement formats, we call them. We try to adopt one of your words, formats. But these engagement formats are basically ads, but they are effective at pulling the audience in. So the question was, which ones are most effective? We have event ads. We have a way where you can have people sign up so that they get a reminder that a show is about to start. We did a lot of that during the World Cup. That was quite interesting. Like, this match is about to start. And you're like, well, like you didn't know already because it's a World Cup. But you get my point. I think it'd be quite effective for television. Polls are really great. For some reason, people like to interact with polls, especially around video. We found that video polling and video engagement formats seem to work best. So you guys are best at that. I think you have an advantage there.
Yeah. Next hand, gentleman right at the front this time. Is there, and then the chap in the black afterwards is there, so when you're ready, great.
Hi, thanks. I was going to ask you more about connected TV, really. So Google TV, I'm interested to have connected television sets, and where Facebook sits within that. How long before I can hit a button on my remote and like a show or do that other stuff?
What did he say?
Did you hear that?
Not quite.
Could you say that again really
sure.
loud?
I'm really sorry.
No, that's okay. Connected TV, can you hear me now? And Google TV, what's Facebook's role in that environment?
I'd say, so I think what's the value of connected TV and how does it change the Facebook business model? Is that the question?
I mean, I could see, we've delivered these social plugins to the market starting in April. And basically, you allow people to sign in to your experience. And I could see someday the ability to actually sign in using your Facebook ID to a show. I can see that happening without a doubt.
Are you surprised that someone hasn't used Facebook to integrate into a format in itself? Because it seems like the next big thing has not yet happened in television. There hasn't really been anything that's a genre changer for a long time. Do you think that it will involve Facebook?
Well, I think it could. I think that,
How would you do
with
it?
all these, I don't know, I'm not creative like you guys. I'm more of a techie, but I think that, certainly the people in this room would have probably the best brains in the world are here right now to figure something like that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gentleman in the black shirt there, and then there's a gentleman at the back with a hand, and that will probably be the last question.
Okay.
Good afternoon. 2 questions.
No, you can only have one.
Well, I'll try to put them together. So, groups versus pages, because we were going through this exercise to advantage of having a group versus having a page. Because if you already have a group that say has 1,000 members, and you want to migrate them to your page, there seems to be a technical complexity behind that.
I think that a lot of companies have had stops and starts. Like they've set up a page. Like for instance, I think you probably saw that Disney has its own page, but also Toy Story has almost as many fans as Disney. So what you need to do is get in touch with us, and we will take all the various pages and bring them together for you. Because if they're your copyright, it's your property, we'll help you pull them together, so that you can have all the fans in one place.
Paula.
Call
Last
me.
question, please.
I'm not going to give you my number right now, but that'd be good.
Thank you for being with us today. It's been wonderful listening to you. I'm from India, from the media. Just one question and an observation. There is a view in India that the growth of Facebook, exponential growth, has a lot to do with being personal,
Yes,
natural,
and authentic, yes.
and hence genuine. With this kind of growth, what do you think is the major threat when you move towards the commercial border?
Major threat. I don't think, I'm really positive, I never think about threats, but I think that because every person has individually invested in their Facebook experience, it literally belongs to them. That page is theirs, and every page is unique. And so 2 things. One is they're committed to it because they build it themselves. They put the information there. They decide what friends to add. And that's unique and very special about Facebook. But also, try hosting 500 million individual pages, which are refreshed in each session, maybe 10, 20, 30 times. It's like, hosting Yahoo's homepage 500 million times, a day. Like you can imagine, and then each time you refresh that page, it's a brand new web page. So technically, the technical the advances required to build and scale this network are not trivial. So I don't see, you'd have to really it would take some time to come after it.
I'm just going to ask one more question. A year from now, how is Facebook going to be different, and what big innovations are we going to see that are going to change the game for you?
I think the social plugins, the idea that we're allowing people like yourselves to integrate Facebook into the experience, to make it more engaging and more relevant. I think we're starting to see now the news feed of people and your friends is starting to become more interesting because we've opened Facebook up to the world. So we've given everybody a chance to integrate it in. So it's much more reflective of my personal interests, and it gets more and more about me because I'm able to share this article that means something to me, something that I'm concerned about, a cause, a fundraiser, everything's starting to become shareable on the web, which is really exciting.
Cool. Well, we could talk about this for an awful long time, but we are out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Joanna Shields.
Thank you.